Hey everyone, welcome back to Halloween Hits. Today we'll be covering Coraline, a classic, a really good, really good movie. The stop motion, once again, Leica Studios just knocks it out of the park. I'm kind of tempted to say that it was better than Paranorman in the quality of the animation. Just the way they can get way more psychedelic and just a little bit more creative with the character design when it comes to just monstrous and otherworldly kind of designs. Of note is the other mother, of course. I love her design, so good. And the other father, when he's becoming more and more like a pumpkin, and then he's stuck to the praying mantis. I love that design. Very creative. Let's see, what else? A particular scene that still strikes me as very beautiful is when Coraline puts the eyes under her pillow and she releases the souls of the lost children. And it's just a very striking, beautiful scene, very Van Gogh-esque kind of night sky, and they're angels and they're free, and it's sweet. And let's see what other. Oh, of course, the other Babinski, when he's just a bunch of rats in a trench coat. So creepy and just so fluid and strange animation. I love that. And it was such a good creepy scene. Speaking of Babinski, as a character, damn, I wish I had half the motivation that he has. Holy shit. You guys need to get on that Babinski grind set. You got me? Whew. If only I had half the strength of that man. I know I have all of his belly, though. Let's see. Keith David really stands out in performance-wise. I'm a huge fan of Keith David. And his voice is just so iconic and beautiful. And it performs the cat very well. And the cat is just a good little mystery. Is the cat truly otherworldly, or is it just a cat? Another thing with the story is that it has this beautiful way of creating this huge mystery and history to the Pink Palace and the mystery surrounding the Bell Dam. Speaking of the Bell Dam, did you know that the Bell Dam is actually referring to, I think, an old fairy tale of a knight that gets kind of seduced by a witch and gets pulled away and trapped with her in this other dimension? I'm pretty sure, I think that's paraphrasing too much, but that's the gist of it. Another thing of note with the Beldam is that it's really close to Beldome, which is kind of more like an asylum. So that's a fun little wordplay you can do there. On the subject of the neighbors, the old couple that lives in the basement underneath them, I think they're a really cute couple. Now, whether or not it's romantic, I'm not quite sure. I think it is with the imagery when the other them are in monstrous form, when they're in the taffy wrapper and they're this candy monster that's entwined together. I think that either means they're really good friends or they're lesbians. Your choice. It doesn't really matter to me. Let's see. What else? And I think it's very effective horror for children. They really hide really grotesque and invasive things with metaphor. And also just imagery that's still unsettling, but it's not gory. I really appreciate that. The intro when the other mother is creating the Coraline doll out of the older doll. It's just a really just unsettling scene, and I love it. And back to the design of the other mother, I really love the combination of praying mantis with needles for hands, and spider, of course. The huge thing is spider. It's just such a great design. Smash. Let's see. The movie feels kind of personal to me because when I don't know, it wasn't the main theme that it was seeking to go out for, but I felt like it's a very good representation of it, and it's parental alienation. And I have some experience with that. And it just it really shows you how that works. I hesitate to use parental alienation because it's deeply tied to the people on YouTube that will say that make all those narcissist videos, and they don't just it seems it feels like they're exploiting an actual mental illness to just say to people like, oh man, if you don't like somebody, they're clearly a narcissist. I've seen some videos where like people that are narcissists are actually demons. Like, no, literally, just they're saying they're a very religious channel, and to them, narcissists are demons, and that just breaks my mind. So that's why I hesitate to speak on parental alienation, because I don't know what validity there is in the actual like therapeutic work that's been around it. And I know some parents would use that as an excuse, well, not an excuse, but a way to hide the fact that they've been abusive, and they would use it in the wrong. It's messy, but Coraline shows you a very clear-cut example of parental alienation, and you can see it. Like, Coraline's relationship with their parents aren't perfect. It's clear that they're going through financial distress, and you can tell that. What comes to mind immediately is they moved to kind of a shitty place. There's bugs coming out of the bathroom, and half the wiring doesn't work, and the whole building's in terrible shape. And it's a throwaway line, but I think it was caused by a car accident that forced them to move, and that's why Coraline's mother has a neck brace. Also, another example of when they're in financial distress is when Coraline wants to buy new gloves along with her school uniform, and her mom turns it down, and those gloves were $25. Insane price for gloves, in my opinion, but yeah. But that's all examples of the financial distress making a shaky relationship with Coraline, because they're also having to work to get their catalog done so they can have money. There's a moment when they're eating a meal together, and it's just kind of like vegetable slop, and Coraline is complaining about it, and the parents like, hey, the moment we finish the catalog and get paid, we'll go buy some groceries. So that feels really relatable, and also just by proxy of them having to work all the time and not being able to buy stuff, it makes Coraline feel neglected, which is fair, because it's fucking boring. Like, her dad tells her to go count windows for fun. Rough. And the other mother exploits this. She creates the perfect honeypot, just like any other person that's doing parental alienation would, trying to create like, oh man, all this stuff is just better. I'm your mother, but better. I have this father that's better than your actual father, and so on and so forth. And it's all perfect and great until Coraline learns that there's a stipulation to all these nice things. She has to wear the buttons. She has to get the buttons sewn into her eye. Because even though the other mother wants her, she wants the idea of Coraline. She wants to change Coraline into the other Coraline, if you will. And it also did capture the elements of parental alienation, that the person doing the parental alienation does love, even though I hesitate to say it, they do love the kid. And they're just really manipulating their way to get the kid into their life. And through the process, it devours that kid. And I know through that personally, because holy shit, it will destroy you if you're the person caught in between that. Because you don't know what to trust, and you don't really know what to do. What I really appreciate, though, is that it shows the solution to parental alienation. And it comes down ultimately to Coraline deciding and knowing that her actual parents do love her. And a great example of this in the metaphor is, for a brief moment, you see a picture of them in her bedroom, where Coraline and their parents are at the Detroit Zoo, I'm pretty sure. And where are her parents hidden away? Inside the snow globe for the Detroit Zoo. And so, in that good memory, she knows that her parents love her. And thus, taking that memory, breaking her parents out of prison, and saving the day, she beats parental alienation and the other mother. I really enjoy this film. I really do. And another note on the horror, like, think of the other people, the other dad. Such a tragic story. He does love Coraline, to the point where even when he's dying, he forces his arm out of the machinery that's forcing him to do the evil, and he grabs the eye of the child that's attached to the tractor mantis, and he gives it to Coraline. And if he hadn't done that, Coraline would have lost, and she would have died and become just another lost child. So overall, Coraline, really good. I love it. 7 out of 10. Very personal story, and I would recommend just about anybody to watch it, especially with their kids. So until next time, oh wow, can't get to that part yet. Oh, I forgot we have to traverse the depths of hell still. Off to the reviews.
Alright, let's find all these bangers. Guess what? Just so you know, intelligence is my dump stat, and that's the reason why I couldn't figure this out last time. I didn't prepare for it at all in the first video, but here we are. I finally filtered it to 1 stars. And you know what? We're straight to the good stuff. The anti-Wally.
First, the look of the movie is gorgeous. I love the use of animatronic puppets and real sets supplemented by CGI. It gives the movie a wonderful magical physics. Oh, but oh lord, the sorry story. You remember in WALL-E when you first met the character, there was an instant emotional connection? You became emotionally invested in the movie, and the thought of WALL-E dying was generally upsetting, and how in WALL-E the story had twists and turns and kept you interested? Well, Coraline has none of that. All the main characters were uninteresting, soulless, unsympathetic cutouts. They even managed to make the talking cat an unlikable bore. The story has zero suspense or surprises. You pretty much know this is going to happen 10 minutes into this thing. In short, it is emotionally vacant, soulless movie with a paint-by-numbers storyline that looks good. So if you liked WALL-E, because the story was clever and you cared about the characters and not just because of the great-looking computer animation, chances are good you'll hate this movie because all it's got is it looks good.
1 out of 10. Woo! That was some critical damage to my mental state. Whew. Why WALL-E? Why the obsession with WALL-E? I'm glad that you can admit that the movie looks beautiful, because it does, but soulless cutouts, they're like complicated, they're more true to life. I didn't mention this earlier, but the character design, like, they look like people. I feel like I've seen all of these people around, and it's really well done. And they act like it too. They are more grounded. They're not over the top. And if you can't emotionally connect with Coraline, I think that's more of a you problem, Fritz Gerlich. So yeah, no, just in the story being a cutout, WALL-E's story is more cutout than this one. Next one.
An Americanized piece of sellout tripe. Neil Gaiman's masterpiece book was horribly contorted into a monstrosity of Americanized garbage. Nothing good came from the book. Made its way into this movie. The plot was twisted away from the book, the graphics were not as compelling as the book deserved, and after seeing it with the large group of people yesterday, we could only come up with one word that we all agreed upon: broken. This movie was broken from the discontinuity of the plot, to the incongruity with the book, to the extreme shakiness of the animation, which didn't even stand in the same ballpark as Nightmare Before Christmas, which used the same animation. This movie was broken.
This is just false. I'm sorry, Red Ice, but I gotta say, the animation is way more involved and beautiful, and the colors pop out way more than Nightmare Before Christmas. I think the most interesting thing in Nightmare Before Christmas, maybe the Oogie Boogie scene with the different neon lights, but that's about it. It being a broken plot, no, it's straightforward, yes, but it's a lot to chew on. And you can go on YouTube and see all these videos with millions of views that just dives into like the lore and basically Dark Souls-ifying this story, which is great. On the note of it not being the same as the book, I don't know. I haven't read the book, to be honest. So that might be true. Maybe if I had read the book, I'd fucking hate this movie. But I highly doubt it. I'm also pretty good at separating the source from the adaptation. And then finally, Americanized. It's made by an American studio, I'm fairly sure, unless Laika isn't. Let's look that up real quick. Is Laika an American company? Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, I'm sorry that an American studio made the story. That's something that can't be fixed. That's personal preference, and I understand if the Americanization of it isn't to your taste. But again, I think all of those aren't worthy of a 1 star. Next one. Oh, here we go. Which one? Oh, they all look so good. Dola's Ditchwater. Oh. Let's do this. This one's a little bit longer. Let's see if it's not too long.
Absolutely unacceptable for children, unimaginative, and locked in cliches. This movie was a great disappointment, and we were at a complete loss on how it has earned the generally good reviews everywhere. The story is a dull, haphazard patchwork of truly imaginative fairy tales, lesser imaginative children's stories, and other bad copies of true classics. But more importantly, it is in absolutely no way suited for children. It is deeply rooted in the genre of horror movies and makes ample use of fear-producing settings and techniques. Starting off in a clumsily drawn situation many children can relate to, being misunderstood by their parents. It begins to address the topic of imagination as a helper in difficult situations. Here, a wonderful opportunity lay at hand to in pictures talk to children about the themes of emotional overstrain and retreat and the dangers that are associated with it. However, the movie from then on completely fails to make use of this possibility and ingress into an imbecile fight against a fuzzily, badly painted antagonist. This antagonist is anything but stringent. It switches back and forth between different cliches, and it is obvious that the makers of this movie do not have any creativity in themselves at all to create a coherent vision. To make up for this lack of imagination, the movie is filled up to the brim with horror scenes, much too much for anyone below 14 at least. I would say even my partner and me were stunned by such an unnecessary use of fear creating. The psychological insight of the creators does not go any further than randomly inserting some reference to the constructive and deconstructive side of love. When you think that you completely wasted your money, it gets even worse, as the story is from a possible closing again forced into second rising, giving additional proof of the complete loss of creative vision and inability of storytelling of the makers. It is a disgrace how this movie is presented as being in the tradition of Alice, Emile, or others. It is not. Do not pay to be made sit through a complete failure.
Das Potluck? I'm gonna have to put you in F tier. This is fucking garbage. You just didn't understand the movie. A big thing that really stands out for me is you have to be 14 to see this movie. Well, I mean, I get some people have a different fear tolerance, but I felt like it was slotted into the right rating, you know? And then just like saying that it's a cliche of a bunch of different stories. What fucking stories? Say them. Unless you're referring to Alice, which that has nothing to do with it. And like, you just don't understand the themes and the story overall. You just seemed very confused and ready to fucking hate this movie from the get-go. And therefore, F tier. next one.
Oh my god, what is that? Oh my god, what is that? Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Do not show this to your kids unless you hate them. The movie gave me nightmares as a child, and I can never live that down. The Bell Dam is far too spider-like and horrifying, and people die. They die. I'm only letting my kids listen to Kids Pop and watch VeggieTales. This has no place in my home.
That's rough, buddy. Mystic Cat Gamer. You know what? My heart goes out to you. If this is what life is like for you, I hope you figure it out. I hope you get better. Next review. Oh, let's check out this one. Whew. Rare Magic by Aaron Dumont.
A work like Coraline is much like Pixar's Up, a revealing work, the state of mainstream cinema today. A cynical feeding tube of explosions, borderline playboys, one-dimensional insults to characters and character development, a pretty much vapid cultural nothingness. Seems always to be steeped in a complete lack of ideas, thought, or obstacles. That, among several other things, is what makes Coraline so special. Of course, it's still a great work when standing on its own, but such an unlikely breath of fresh air is simply difficult to come across these days. Coraline is well near rapturous. The endless sense of unsettling terror, of mystery, of complete perplexity, the kinetic, vibrant balance between emotion, adventure, and hallucinatory near-myth is purely stunning. In the wasteland of today's arts and entertainment medium, one so dense with mediocrity that an intellect can barely survive in it, Coraline finds itself in the humble, calm, albeit mundane world of a young girl named, ever so obviously enough, Coraline. Coraline, bored with her limited surroundings, workaholic parents, and utter lack of contact and friends through a pulsating acid-like tunnel, goes exploring into a twisty spiral house before finding a small door leading through a pulsating acid-like tunnel, before getting dragged right into a darkly perfect alternate life with another mother, other father, delicious meals, ridiculously luxurious mansion, garden, shows, and magic, etc. Though, as Coraline gets more and more obsessed with this psychedelic happy circus alternate life, she begins to become disillusioned by a series of unfortunate findings, the mandatory buttons for eyes, the other's insanely cruel punishment towards Coraline's only friend, the trapped souls. I won't reveal much more. Such a movie needs to be experienced. During the final moments of the movie, the dusky, cloudy shades from previously bloom into complex interplays of light, shadows, primaries, often wandering off into more psychedelic regions, often entering a twisted dream logic and topsy-turvy psyche. Though the brilliance of Coraline is that it stays earthly and on its feet, even when it has its heads and arms embraced right into the wildest of fantasies, dreams, nightmares, and puzzles. The terrifying, vertiginous scene where Coraline has final standoff between her and the other mother is one of pure handcrafted imagination. It's something so antique, yet so inventive, something nostalgic yet open and liberating, that it can only be one thing, something difficult to recognize, but more than welcome. Genius.
Largely, I would agree. I try not to disparage the setting of what art is being made right now, while I give a compliment to a thing, because we have such a little view of what's actually going on, and it can be a little cynical. I know I can be quite cynical. That would be my only complaint about this review. Other than that, Aaron Dumont, I agree. This is a great breakdown. You used big words that I can't pronounce. 10 out of 10 review. A tier. Back to Abandon.
Thanks for making it to the end of the video. I know this channel is small. That's it. It's Thanks for stopping by. And whatever you do, try to enjoy it. Bye.